I'll be right back.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good,
Others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right.
that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Welcome back to GameDay U. We're still in the Gaylord Library at the Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communication. The stadium is in the background. The sun is up on a beautiful day for some college football. But first, turmoil in Lubbock. Matt Wells is out as the head coach. What happened?
Okay, first I want to point out that I do know a Tech football player, and I was asking him about it, and he was like, yeah, this is so unexpected. And I was like, really? Really, is it? Because when you let up 70 points against Texas, I'm sorry, but you are out the door. The Longhorns had 336 yards on the ground against them and 639 in the air. Defensive coordinator Keith Patterson, wake up. But on the Tech offensive side, they had less than half of Texas's rushing yards with only 128. They were 5 of 13 on third down efficiencies. Henry Columbia is an inefficient quarterback, throwing just as many touchdowns as he has interceptions for the season, and 2 of those were against the Longhorn defense. The backfield isn't deep, and there seems to be major inconsistency. There is no depth on the roster, and something has got to change. The recruiting has been weak since Matt Wells arrived. It was when it was clear from the Texas game that he was going to be out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Texas game really exposed Texas Tech. I feel like that's the game that everyone remembers.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas Tech lost to K-State last weekend, but no one really talks about that. It's the fact that they were blown out by Texas is what everybody remembers.
So they're out. He's out after that.
It's an embarrassing loss for any coach.
Yeah. I'm just going to say it's bad timing because coming into playing the Sooners, it's going to be the toughest team that Tech is going to play. Hopefully, Texas did give them a good run for their money. But I just think it's bad timing right before this game. Yes, OU play the way they played against Kansas. Maybe Tech can pull it off over the Sooners. But I think it was just bad timing. And the next 4 games for Tech are very hard. They play the Sooners, then they play Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. Very similar to OU's schedule. Those are going to be the 4 hardest teams that they have to play this whole season. And now they're doing it without a head coach. Yes, Sonny Kumbie is coming in, and he's going to push the ball. He was going to want to throw the ball. And having not such an efficient quarterback is going to create a lot of inefficiencies for the Raiders. And I just think this is bad timing.
Okay, you say it's bad timing. You say it was unexpected. I say Texas Tech fans are happy that this dude is gone. And the only reason I say that is because after the K-State loss, wherein it was just a sloppy game. You said nobody talks about it. Every Tech fan was talking about that K-State game because it was just, Tech had every opportunity to win that game, and they just didn't capitalize. And I was scrolling through Twitter, and it would just be, Matt Wells needs to be gone. If he's not gone by the end of the week, we light Lubbock on fire. Like, they were getting real serious into getting this dude out of town. He hadn't been there long, but everybody felt like it was time for him to leave. And you look at his record, he didn't have a winning record with Tech. He went 13-17, didn't get any, major bowl appearances, if any at all. There was change needed in Lubbock, like we all said. And getting him out there, it may not be the best time for Tech at all, especially with this slate of games that they have up next.
Tough.
But it needed to happen, and Lubbock will remain a town.
Not in flames.
Not in flames.
Here's the thing. Tech is a big brand. They have
They
the
are.
name, they have the Power 5 school, and they have the resources. The recruiting has been awful the last couple of years, and Matt Wells is the only person to be held responsible for that because he's been there for, 3 seasons now? And so it was time for him to go, and I think after Texas lost to Arkansas as bad as they did and then turned around and beat Tech as bad as they did, he was out the door a long time ago, and I cannot believe they've held on to him for this long.
I think another thing to remember about it is Texas is leaving, going to the SEC. Very similar to the Oklahoma State situation. But look how Oklahoma State's played this season so far, except for the game against Iowa State. They were undefeated. They were ranked pretty high. And then you have Texas Tech, who just looks awful when Texas blows them out of the water. So I think that's another thing that Tech is looking at. They want to have that opportunity to go to the SEC. Oklahoma State might have had a better chance, a lot better chance than Tech would ever have at this point. And so I think that was another thing, thinking about the future for Tech, because they're kind of like the little brother of Texas. So they're going to be, they want to push their name to the front. They want to be the school of Texas. But after that game, no way this season. No way.
No, Texas Tech has never been, as a resident Texan myself, Texas Tech has never been.
But why?
on top.
Why is that? Why can't, they had Patrick Mahomes. Why? What?
It's just something about the program. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but even with Patrick Mahomes, a solid college quarterback and an even more solid NFL quarterback, they just haven't been able to succeed. And I don't know if it's just because of the town they're in or what.
Maybe.
But
Maybe.
West Texas.
I don't know. But switching gears a little bit, let's talk about a different Texas team. Baylor has had a very strong offensive performance this season, but is it good enough to take them to the Big 12 championship?
Oh, I think absolutely, because the only thing standing in their way at this point is Oklahoma. And after the performance that the Speed D gave against Lawrence this past Saturday, I think that the Baylor offense is perfectly capable of destroying the Oklahoma defense. As of now, Baylor's only loss is to a good Oklahoma State team. Other than Oklahoma, everyone on their schedule for the remainder of the season is unranked. Baylor's offense is ranked 13th nationally. That's above OU. And they average 38 points per game and 471 total offensive yards. They know how to control the ball, and that's something Oklahoma definitely struggles with. And they struggle with the clock, which will take down almost all of Big 12 defenses. What I mean to say is that Baylor is capable of controlling the clock to take down other Big 12 defenses. They are 27 of 30 on red zone scoring attempts, and they have almost a full starting lineup of upperclassmen. And they've had the same quarterback that's gotten snaps under center all year. Gary Bohannon is underrated, and he is a serious threat to the remainder of their schedule and potentially a playoff opponent. Baylor is a very underrated team. I think that they are the sleeper for Oklahoma's schedule, and that's the only team that's standing in their way.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like Baylor has a really good chance at becoming the best team in Texas right now for college football.
Yes.
But I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit and say that it's not going to be the offense, it's going to be the defense. Baylor has a strong defense, and they're going to need to focus on the defense for the remainder of the season, especially with the game against OU, and in hopes of making it to that Big 12 championship. And especially against today's game, Baylor and Texas, Bijan, that defense needs to be in full force, because that is the key to stopping Texas, is Bijan. Baylor allows 18.7 points per game. They're not super flashy, but they make those key plays. They also had that interception against Iowa State, which sealed the deal for that game. When it comes to the next games, Texas and Oklahoma are going to be the biggest games that defense needs to show up at. Oklahoma has the dynamic Caleb Williams and Kennedy Brooks and that strong run game, so slowing that will be key. And making it to the Big 12 championship, they're just going to need to focus on that defense. Offense is obviously going to need to hold it up, but I'm going to say their focus needs to be the defense, and the defense is what's going to get them to that Big 12
I
championship.
think we can all agree that Baylor is a very solid team, if not the best team in Texas right now.
If they beat
Absolutely.
Texas, they will be.
Yes,
Why
they will.
are people not talking about this more?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. But Dave Aranda is doing good things down in Waco, and it'll be a very interesting matchup when the Sooners play the Bears.
And when the Longhorns play the Bears.
Exactly. Good games coming up. But So, okay, I'm going to sit, not only am I physically in between both of you, I'm going to sit in the middle right here. I'm going to say that Baylor's offense is really good, but they're not good enough to take them to the Big 12 championship. And that's just because there are better offenses in the Big 12. Now, Texas's offense, we talked about that game. Texas's offense is ranked higher than Baylor's in scoring. Scoring-wise, they're third in the Big 12 overall. Passing, they're sixth in the Big 12. Rushing, they're first. They have the ground game down. But overall, this is a solid offense. There are just better teams in the Big 12. And, you know, just a good offense won't get them there. The defense needs to step up. Am I saying they can't make it? Not necessarily. Anything can happen. Like I said last week, anything can happen in this conference. But it's just getting them to the championship, I think there are some better teams. So switching gears, let's talk about a different Texas team. Let's talk about the Baylor offense. Is it good enough to take them to the Big 12 championship?
Oh, I think absolutely, especially because I think Oklahoma is the only team standing in their way. And after the Speed D performance that they gave in Lawrence last weekend, I think that the Baylor offense is going to destroy Oklahoma. As of now, Baylor's only loss is to a good Oklahoma State team. Other than Oklahoma, everyone else on their schedule is unranked. Baylor's offense is ranked 13th nationally. That's above OU. And they average 38 points per game and 471 yards of total offense. They know how to control the ball and the clock, which is going to take down any Big 12 defenses, especially Oklahoma. They are 27 of 30 on red zone scoring attempts. They have almost a full starting lineup of upperclassmen, and they've had the same quarterback that has gotten snaps under center all season. Jerry Bohannon is underrated, and he is a serious threat to the remainder of their schedule, and he's potentially a playoff opponent. Baylor is a very underrated team, and I think their offense is very capable of taking them to a championship.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree that they are very underrated. I feel like Baylor's just that team that everyone's kind of forgetting about right now.
They are.
With the other teams in the discussion between Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and then you have Baylor in there, but I think it's very easy to forget about Baylor. But I'm going to have to go with the other side of the ball for Baylor. I'm going to say the defense is what's going to need to stand out for these next games. Today, they play Texas in Bijan. The key to stopping Texas is stopping Bijan, so need that dominant defense. Baylor's defense allows 18.7 points per game. They make the key plays. They're not the flashiest team, but like I said, they make those plays. When it comes to the games against Texas and Oklahoma, the defense is going to need to show up. Oklahoma has dynamic Caleb Williams and then Kennedy Brooks with the run game, so slowing those two players will be key. I think Baylor, like you said, has a strong offense, but the defense is really good. They're going to need that to stand out for the remaining games of their season, especially when it comes to Texas and Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah. You're saying they're good enough to make it. You're talking about their defense. Not only am I physically in the middle here, I'm also going to sit in the middle on my point.
Always the middle man.
Always the middle man, both physically and metaphorically. Yes. I'm going to say their offense is good. It's a very solid offense, but it's not good enough to take them to the Big 12 championship. And that's only because there are better offenses in the Big 12. You look at how they stack up. Texas's offense is actually ranked higher than Baylor's in scoring. Scoring-wise, Baylor is currently third in the Big 12. Passing-wise, they're sixth. Now, they are first in the run game. They've got the ground game down. So, offense looks good, yes. But there are better offenses that just produce better. And I don't know if they're going to be able to stack up against these other teams like Oklahoma. We'll see how they stack up against Oklahoma. We'll see how they stack up to push them into the championship and get out of this three-way tie for second place that currently exists in the Big 12.
Those points you made really even show more. What you pointed out earlier, what I emphasized, is how underrated Baylor is.
They are underrated.
Yes.
They're very underrated.
Extremely
Absolutely.
underrated.
I think at this time every year we all get very caught up in like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it works itself out. But why are people not talking about Baylor more than they are? They're ranked nationally higher than any other Big 12 team in defensive stats, offensive stats.
They do play well. They play well.
I think the undefeated, like the 8-0, the 7-0, is fooling people because the discussion was, oh, it's going to be Oklahoma State and Oklahoma when Oklahoma State was still undefeated, and now having Iowa State beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beat Baylor. Baylor
Circle
beat
sucks.
Iowa State or Oklahoma State. It's just such a mess. So it's that tie also makes it so tricky.
It's definitely interesting, and we talked about this. It was a big topic in my family group chat that when the last time an unranked Iowa State beat a ranked Oklahoma State is what changed the BCS playoff system into the college football playoff. And what's interesting about it is that I think we are about to run into the exact same problem. So with the potential that Oklahoma State could win out, Baylor only has that one loss right now to Oklahoma State. What if they win out? It's kind of like, are they going to give the credit where credit is due, or are we going to see Alabama once again in the playoffs?
I think there's a strong chance to see both of those SEC teams with Georgia and Alabama. And that's what makes it tricky, because there is that Cincinnati, there is OU, and there's the Big Ten teams. So there's so many solid teams, but there's only 4 spots, which is a big issue.
So you're saying we could see the college football playoff expanded because of that game?
Yes, and I think it's very important that Baylor, and I know that like we've kind of got off the topic of the Baylor thing, but to rope it back in is that Baylor has got to win out in order to prove this point of the playoff needs to expand.
Well, with OU playing Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Iowa State, that is the main goal of all of those teams, is to beat Oklahoma to get that spot. So they're all trying to do the same thing for that same spot, while OU is trying to beat all of those teams to maintain that spot.
It is going to be a very difficult championship November.
Yeah, the most difficult I think a lot of these Big 12 teams have ever seen.
Possibly. Now, Dave Aranda is doing great things down in Waco. A little iffy season last year, but it's good to see them performing well, and maybe that's why people are overlooking. Maybe that's why people are overlooking Baylor, because of the bad season they had last year. Maybe they just underestimate them, but Baylor's good.
And Baylor gets to play Texas and Oklahoma at home.
That's big.
McLean is a good stadium to play in.
And Baylor is the let's just go on to the next topic before I get into this too much.
Yeah, we've talked about the playoff enough. Let's tie it back. Let's get into the Big 12 championship. Who makes it?
Exactly. So the reason I needed to get into the next topic is because I have Oklahoma and Baylor duking it out in Dallas for the Big 12 championship.
Redux.
Exactly. So luckily I was able to make some of my claims earlier, but Oklahoma is the worst undefeated team in the country. I think a lot of people agree on that. At some point in the season, they're going to be challenged, and while most people are thinking it's Iowa State or Oklahoma State, I don't think either of those teams are dominant enough on all sides of the ball. Baylor is the least expected to make some noise, and I think that it will not matter how the Baylor defense is performing. I think that Baylor's defense is very capable of forcing Caleb Williams to play like a freshman. When you have those receiving matchups like Tyquan Thornton and Tyquan Thornton against Pat Fields, or R.J. Sneed against DJ Graham, your secondary is going to fall. And so I think that's the team that's going to upset Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's the only team standing in their way of the Big 12 championship.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to stick with OU on that one, and then I'm going to go with Iowa State. I think everyone's impressed with Iowa State's win over Oklahoma State last weekend. But Iowa State's had a slow start, lost to Iowa. They're still struggling, but they're starting to gel. So I think OU can remain undefeated through November, and then Iowa State.
I have an incredibly hot take for this championship, and I'm going to have to stick with Oklahoma State, Iowa State for the Big 12 championship. And that's just because I said this a lot last week, anything can happen in the Big 12. And it's a very difficult November for Oklahoma. It's very possible that they can lose all 3 of their games. If any of them, they can lose 1, they can lose 2, they can lose 3, they can lose all of them. It is possible. It's a very tough 3-week play. And there's currently a 3-way tie for second place because of this circle of suck that's going on. It's Iowa State beating Oklahoma State, Baylor beating Iowa State, Oklahoma State beating Baylor. They're all just intertwined in this whole deal going on, and all it takes is a couple of losses to switch things around. It was a great game against Iowa State and Oklahoma State, something that could impact college football forever with the playoff. I wouldn't mind seeing it again.
I really hope that the graphic was not up when Will was like, they could lose all 3 games. But it's very true.
They could.
It's very true they could.
Well, and like I said earlier, this tie between these 3 teams, all of them need to win out. And that's the biggest issue.
They're not
Figuring out who is going to get that second spot. If OU can maintain that first spot and not lose these tough 3 games that they have in November, they play every team that they're fighting against for that Big 12 spot. I find it interesting, though, none of us said Oklahoma State, which I feel like maybe a week ago that would have been easy.
That's what I thought. However, but since Oklahoma State, so yeah, they would have to lose to OU. I mean, they would have to win against OU, and that's just not a risk I'm willing to bet right now.
The tie, when they were undefeated before the upset, it was very possible that Bedlam could decide the Big 12, but now there's this 3-way tie.
Yes.
Well, and it would be a back-to-back Bedlam game, which
It would be Bedlam too.
That would be interesting.
A very quick turnaround.
I just think that Baylor's offense has a bigger chance of upsetting Oklahoma's defense than Oklahoma State does with Spencer Sanders.
Iowa State had
the most
upset.
inconsistent quarterback there is.
Iowa State had the upset against Oklahoma State. They can potentially do it against another Oklahoma team, and if they do, they can take that spot.
Already a 1 loss, already a 2 loss.
2 loss, but 1 loss in the Big 12. So it's a very
only 1
interesting-
conference loss. They lost to Iowa.
Exactly. The Iowa loss doesn't really count in this play.
Okay.
But I don't know. Full on, I'm betting on chaos. Anything can happen.
Chaos will ensue.
It's going to be a spooky weekend.
It's going to be a wild next month of college football, and I am here for it.
November is always a good month.
November is going to be a fantastic month for football. But that is all we have for this block. Let's kick it to the studio team to hear their heroes and zeros from last week at college football.
What could you lose in a home fire? Your possessions? Your home? Your memories? Don't let your world go up in smoke. Make sure you have working smoke alarms and keep heaters 3 feet away from anything that can burn, because fire is everyone's fight.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Kids will be kids, which just goes to say kids will be curious. They get into everything. If there's a loaded firearm in the house, they could get their hands on that too. Keeping firearms locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition in a place inaccessible to kids can help keep your loved ones safe from family fire. Safe gun storage saves lives.
I just found out my work party is a +1. You want to go?
This is my boss, Ella.
Nice to meet you, Greg.
You're welcome. Nope, I'm high. But I'll clean the kitchen while you're gone.
You're already making good decisions when you're high.
Pool party at Jesse's. Can you drive? I'm toasted.
Nope, I'm high. But I can order us a ride.
Don't make an exception when it comes to driving. If you feel different, you drive different.
And welcome back to GameDayU, the award-winning student-produced pregame show here in Gaylord College at the University of Oklahoma. I'm your host, Addison Arthur. Now, this college football season has definitely been one for the books. But before we get into detail, let's toss it over to Dylan Rivera for the top 5 plays.
Thanks, Addison. Let's start with the undefeated Demon Deacons and the Army Black Knights. Army sends a man in motion, and the defense is caught watching him, but Cade Ballard was going left the whole time. Travion Red sees that and steals it. Off to the races goes the redshirt senior DB, and he's going to take it all the way back. Pick 6. Red makes a great read on the quarterback and breaks away from his man for the INT. Black and gold battle got high scoring, but Wake Forest would get the 70-56 win. An ACC matchup between Clemson and Pitt. It's a unique call, and the Tigers fake a quarterback keeper into a pitch to the running back. But Servassier Dennis is on a bull rush, and this bull's going the other way with it. Touchdown, Panthers! Uyunglele never saw him coming. Quick reflexes and the soft hands of Dennis result in this extremely impressive and unique pick 6. Pittsburgh would top Clemson 27-17. Up in Ames, Oklahoma State at Iowa State. Spencer Sanders has his eyes downfield looking for former Bixby Spartan Brennan Presley. And with 2 defenders in the area, Presley mosses the defense. Give the Pokes 6 of them. Let's watch that one again. Presley turns on the Jets and heads straight for the house. Ball drops in from the sky, and look at the vertical. Presley hauls it in, but the Cowboys drop this one as ISU gets the 24-21 victory. UVA and Georgia Tech. 2 straight weeks of highlight catches from the Cavs. This one's from Dontavian Wicks. Just like the Presley catch, there's double coverage, and Wicks gets up to grab this one. In the words of Sooner alum Stacey King, I want to go higher. Virginia wins it in a tight interconference game, 48-40. Our top play from the Big Ten, Michigan and Northwestern. Wildcats need to mount a comeback, but cornerback DJ Turner's playing keep away from Northwestern. It's an interception. And just like that, it's celebration time at the Big House. Watch this concentration up close. He looks like he's trying to keep his balloon off the ground. Wolverines keep their undefeated season alive with a 33-7 win. Madison, that's it from me. Turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Dylan. Joined alongside me are our analysts, Parker Abels, Jimmy Wicks, and Miles Hartman. How we doing, guys?
Let's get straight to some football.
Now, there are some outstanding performances that stood out last week. Who are your heroes from Week 8?
I'm going to have to go with Xavier Hutchinson. This was a big reason why the Cyclones got the win over the Oak State Cowboys last week. I mean, he's been balling lately. The senior wide receiver out of Jacksonville, Duval, recorded 2 receiving touchdowns, 12 receptions, 125 receiving yards against Oak State and beat them 24-21. So far this season, he's recorded 539 yards, 46 receptions, and 11.7 yards per reception. His size and versatility on that field at his size makes it hard for DBs to contain him, and that duo of him and Brock Purdy are big reasons why the Cyclones are one of the best teams in the Big 12 and still remain in the top 25 in CFB rankings. And it's just been excited to watch him compete, and I'm excited to see how far he goes in the rest of the season.
Man, I love that Duval shout out. And I'm on shout out. A fellow wide receiver. My hero this week is Malik Williams. He led the team in receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns. My guy put up video game numbers on a Wednesday night football game against Coastal Carolina, a top 15 team. They were great last year, great this year too, had a great secondary, but Malik Williams was the star of the show. Always getting open, getting behind the sticks. Look at this great catch here. Almost gets in the end zone, was just short, but just almost doubled his receiving totals in a single game, and he's constantly getting open, beating the DB. He's played a fantastic game.
Man, I love those wide receiver picks, man. Really repping out there. But for my hero, I'm going with my personal favorite quarterback from the show QB1, and that is Sam Hartman out of Wake Forest. In his performance versus Army, he went 23-29, 458 yards, 5 touchdowns, and ran for another in a 70-56 win. You heard me right. 70 points against the Army defense. Hartman has been balling out all year, leading the Demon Deacons to their first 7-0 start since 1944. Wake Forest is not a program you're supposed to go 7-0 with, but Hartman is a natural-born winner. He did the same thing his senior year of high school, winning 7 games for his high school, Oceanside Collegiate Academy, who never won a game before he got there. Hartman's been doing the same thing for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons this season, and like I said, he's been winning games, producing big numbers. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in New York in December.
You said he was your favorite QB1 quarterback?
From season 2.
Okay, I was about to say, there's one who goes here, man. I'm like, come on.
I mean,
you know, that's my cousin too, right? I told him everything.
Bro, he's a baller.
Yeah, that's
family. Come on.
No, I'm just playing.
Family's all over the show.
I'm just playing.
Although there are some outstanding performances, a week never goes by where there aren't some who fall short. Now, give me your zeros.
I'm going to have to go with Sean Clifford. Let me start by saying that was one of the craziest games that we saw last week that happened between Penn State and Illinois, but I expected more from the Lions QB. Illinois' defense put that pressure on him, and it showed as he got sacked 4 times. This is the highest this season for him, and he had his 3rd lowest completion percentage at 55.9%. I mean, it was obvious that both teams wanted this win as bad as they did, and it went into 9 overtimes, but the Illinois defense was hungrier, and it showed that Clifford folded, but I expected more from him this last week. So let's see.
I think Clifford was partially, folded because he was healthy or unhealthy, but hopefully he gets back on track this week. But my zero this week is Keydon Slovis. Going into the season, he was one of the highest rated on the NFL boards. Literally was supposed to take over at USC. He was a preseason Heisman hopeful, has completely failed to meet those expectations. On the biggest game of the USC schedule, he failed to reach the end zone despite having one of the best receivers in all of the country. Slovis has been near average with a talented supporting cast and having a losing record to show for it. He has completely tanked his draft stock and just fell flat this entire season, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember last year I was on the show with Ben Thomas, and he told me that Slovis had some Heisman hype next year. I guess he was not right about that one. Sorry, Ben. For my zero this week, unfortunately, I have to go with a guy who I've really come to like during his time at Purdue, and that is quarterback Aiden O'Connell. Last week, versus the Wisconsin Badgers, he was 24-32, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and threw 3 interceptions. Coming off that huge win against then number 2 Iowa on the road, I expected the Boilermakers to come out and dominate against the struggling Badgers at home. They're ranked in the top 25 for the first time this season, had high expectations, and they blew it. They got manhandled on both sides of the ball and lost 30-13. O'Connell couldn't get anything going after the first quarter when he threw his one and only touchdown of the game, and the Badgers defense ate him up. Now Purdue has 2 top 10 teams left on their schedule in Michigan State and Ohio State, sitting at 4-3. The Boilermakers have a must-win matchup today in Lincoln to get into that bowl eligibility spot. I'm not saying they won't go bowling, but they got a tough schedule and they have to win 2 games.
It's going to be tough to
That's
watch.
tough.
So we'll see.
That's a tough ask.
Coming up, our analysts will discuss the new overtime rule after the Illinois and Penn State game that went into 9 overtimes last week. Stick around.
Breast cancer kills 113 people every day.
That's unacceptable.
African American women die from breast cancer nearly 41% more than Caucasian women.
That's unacceptable.
Breast cancer is the leading cause of all cancer deaths for Hispanic women.
Breast cancer is unacceptable.
Together with Susan G. Komen, we're committed to reducing U.S. breast cancer deaths by half.
And we're going to do it by 2026.
Failure is unacceptable.
On average, I spend 8 hours a week on the road. It's important to me to make the right choices when I drive. And she's the reason why I support MAD.
You are the national parks, and no matter who you are or where you come from, the parks are you too.
When it comes to drinking, what do you think moderation is? In the U.S. Dietary Guidelines, the government defines moderation as up to 1 drink a day for women and up to 2 drinks a day for men. So what's a drink? The guidelines say a standard drink equals 12 ounces of regular beer, 5 ounces of wine, or a 1.5 ounce cocktail of 80 proof distilled spirits. Each contains the same amount of alcohol. When it comes to drinking, there is no beverage of moderation, only the practice of moderation.
Gonna wing it for the end zone for Mims. He comes back for it. He caught it! He caught it! Isn't it in? No signal yet! Touchdown!
A voice recognized by almost any OU sports fan, many even calling him the voice of the Sooners, Toby Rowland has made his mark at the University of Oklahoma as a play-by-play analyst for just about every OU sport. But sports journalism wasn't always in Rowland's plan.
I grew up a giant sports fan, like so many that are working in sports. But when I was in college, I was an accounting major at Southern Nazarene University. And I realized my sophomore year that I didn't want to do debits and credits for the rest of my life.
Rowland's love for live sports translated into a new career path, one that exceeded any expectations he had walking through the doors of Sooner Vision 11 years ago.
And my dad said, what would be the absolute dream job? What would be the greatest thing you could possibly think of doing for a living? And I said, well, I mean, if I could figure out a way to get paid to go to ball games, that would be the greatest, because I love sports so much. I was eaten up with it.
Being here at Sooner Vision for over a decade now, Rowland has sat in the play-by-play booth at least once for every sport on campus. Being well-versed in so many sports is something Rowland says did not come easy, taking him years to get to the level he's at now.
Practice, repetition. I mean, it's like anything in life. You're not very good at it the first time you try it. And by the time you've done, 1,000 of them or 10,000 of them, you get better. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. So lots of practice. I think that I had an affinity for it growing up because I loved listening to it on the radio so much. I knew what it was supposed to sound like.
Looking back on his time in sports radio, Rowland opens up about some of the struggles he had when first navigating through his own career path, sharing one important thing he wished he knew as a young play-by-play analyst.
Don't worry about trying to act like Bob Berry or trying to be like Joe Buck or whoever. You can never be as good at being them as they are, but nobody can ever be as good at being you as you are. I wish earlier I'd given myself a break and just said, you know what, you're pretty good at this, just be yourself.
For GameDayU, Maddie D'Addario.
Welcome back to GameDayU. It's our 4th segment of the show, which means it's time for some 4th and 4th.
Personally, I'm not a fan of this new OT system. As you saw last week at Penn State and Illinois game, they went into 9 straight overtimes. And let's just say if this game was to go into 2 more overtimes, it would have been just a coin toss, and it just wouldn't have been fair, personally, for me. And honestly, you saw that a couple years ago when Texas A&M played against LSU. They wanted to make this rule to make the game less long, to make a game shorter, but I feel like there's another way that could be solved for this. So I don't know, man. I just feel like it's not fair.
Right. I think it's a good idea in thought, but in actual practice, when you have the Penn State Illinois game, it didn't really work out that way. It felt like an absolute eternity. It just takes too long. It's way too long. The first season they have it implemented is the longest game in college football history. The first time. The NFL format's better. The old format was better. It's too clunky, long, and I didn't really like it that much.
I totally agree with you. The old one was so much better. Absolutely. I mean, think about the classics we had. LSU, Texas A&M, 7 overtimes in 2018 that ended 74-72. I mean, I remember watching that game just in awe of how amazing this sport is and how crazy that game was. I mean, and you look at the Texas versus Oklahoma game in 2020, the 4 overtimes. I was lucky enough to be at that game and just the excitement of it. I mean, it was just so much better. And the new overtime, it takes 20 minutes in between plays because they have to keep flipping the field every 2 plays. The old overtime was so much better. They need to change it back immediately. I don't like the new
When
overtime.
I was watching that game and I was just watching these offenses completely struggle to, do anything, I was like, please make it stop. Like, please. But the previous was so much better. I agree. Absolutely.
Well, Wake Forest has had one of the most surprising seasons so far, starting 7-0, leading the ACC outright at Week 8. Miles, are the Demon Deacons title contenders?
Listen, the only reason why they're title contenders is because they don't play nobody. Like, they don't have any good competition. Other than the games that they played against Louisville, Syracuse, they just been running past these teams, man. And it's just like, why are they? The only reason why they're in there is because they don't play any good comp. The next games that they're facing UNC, NC State, Clemson, Boston College, and the possibility for them to finish out the regular season undefeated is really high. With all that being said, though, they're only going to be contenders solely based on the fact that they have a weak schedule, man. Like, I mean, the ACC as a whole, it's just been very disappointing to watch, and that's the only reason, though. That's the only reason that'll put them up, though. I see it. That's the only reason why.
Skipped over Duke, man. They still got to play them.
Go cheer on basketball, man.
Yeah, basketball schools. Go back to playing basketball. Anyways, Wake Forest cannot and will not be a contender. Look, they don't have the pedigree for it, and they also gave up 56 points to a service academy. That's unbelievable. They go to overtime against a 500 Syracuse and just didn't really play good against a lowly Louisville. Wake will put up numbers. That's a given. They play nobodies. Like you said, with the easy ACC schedule, they play Duke, North Carolina State, Clemson, and BC. And Clemson's not what they used to be, so don't even worry about that one. The defense has to improve. While they should cruise through the ACC, they will get smacked in their bowl game. They will get annihilated against whoever they play. They finally will play a team that can tie their own shoes. Please make it happen.
Yeah, earlier in the show I talked about how much I like Sam Hartman, and I think he could be a Heisman contender. That being said, Wake Forest is not a playoff contender. As we all know, the committee loved strength of schedule, and the Demon Deacons just don't have that. I mean, their defense isn't great, giving up 56 to Army, and they've been good in their games. They just haven't been great. They remind me a lot of the 2014 Florida State team that went 13-0 but never won a game impressively. I mean, so the committee put them in, as you would an undefeated Florida State team, and they got obliterated by Oregon 59-20. The committee just knows they aren't good enough to compete in a 4-team playoff with those of Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State, or Bama. They're a good, fun team to watch, but they aren't playoff level. Even if they do squeeze through with a 13-0 record, which I don't think they will, they just won't be playoff contenders. Look for them in the Peach Bowl, though.
Good call.
Oregon took an overtime L to Stanford a few weeks ago, but have still looked strong even in defeat. Is Oregon still in the running for a national title? Miles?
I mean, the Mighty Ducks have just been unstoppable this whole season, and they're proving why they are a top 10 team in the country. At the helm, they have their talented QB in Anthony Brown, who's been balling right now, throwing 1,490 yards and 7 touchdowns. And it's not just him. The defense has just been dominating and running past teams and just overpowering the Pac-12 and just making it unfair for other teams. I mean, it's just safe to say that no one else is good enough in the Pac-12 to hang with the Mighty Ducks. And, I mean, you see that on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They just are able to just run past teams, create plays, and just come out with the win every time.
I like how we go from one bad conference to another bad conference, and I completely agree. I think Oregon's going to run through the Pac-12. They play literally nobodies. They play Colorado, they play Washington State. Give me the Utes, LOL, and Oregon State. And only the last two teams have a winning record at the moment. With Kayvon Thibodeau and that pass rush, that team is dominant on the defensive side of the ball, and they can also put up numbers. They got a great offense. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. They can do it all. But a win against Ohio State has been huge for that locker room, and they bounced back strong after the OT loss to Stanford, who's, I think, better than a lot of people think they are. But they not anybody's going to stop them in the Pac-12. There's no way.
I'm going to disagree with you guys and say that there is a team that can knock off the Ducks, and you don't have to go very far to find them. I think their arch rival, the Oregon State Beavers, have a chance to end the Ducks' Pac-12 streak. Oregon State is currently 5-2, but they've been playing some good football this season. They knocked off USC 45-27 on the road and beat Utah last week 42-34. Their quarterback Chance Nolan is having a good season, passing for over 1,200 yards. But their running back, B.J. Gaylord, has been huge for them, running for 830 yards, 10 touchdowns, and is averaging 7 yards per carry. We all know the Ducks' weakness is their offense, and especially without running back C.J. Verdell, Oregon State can outscore them. Their offense is averaging almost 40 points a game, and they were able to knock off the Ducks a year ago. I think that the Beavers could make a serious run at a Pac-12 championship. They've only have one loss so far, so give me the Oregon State Beavers knocking off the Ducks in Eugene Thanksgiving weekend. I see that.
Hey, yo,
Come
P,
on. What are you going to say?
Are you drunk, bro? What? I know it's this early. You drinking, bro? Really? Oregon State?
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I know you didn't say Oregon's playing a great game. You know they beat USC. Everybody's beat USC. They have a losing record, man. Come on. It's Oregon State.
Man. Oregon State, they have a chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying if anybody's going to do it, it's them.
No. You said
nobody thought they were going to do it last
4K.
year.
They was going to beat Oregon.
I said nobody thought Oregon State was going to beat them last year, and they did it.
Any team with a pulse can make it to the Pac-12 championship, aside Oregon. But it's going.
Hey, Oregon lost to Stanford. I think you're wrong.
Nice.
I don't think they're that good.
Nice.
I don't think they're that good.
Nice.
Hey, my 14-year-old self would be very disappointed by Oregon State.
My God.
We talked about your zeros for last week a little earlier, but who has been your zero for the season so far? Miles, start with you.
I mean, at the start of the season, this guy was supposed to be Heisman candidate, and he's been balling his first 2 seasons. But I'm going to have to go with Sam Howell, man. This guy has just been disappointing this entire season. In his first 2 seasons, he compiled 68 touchdown passes and 14 interceptions, showcasing that he is one of the nation's most elite passers. But this season, he's been performing horribly like he did against FSU, where he completed 53% of his passes, throwing 203 passing yards. And, I mean, all of a sudden, he's just not that guy anymore. I mean, maybe he let them Heisman predictions get to his head or something, but this is not the same Sam Howell that we saw 2 seasons prior, and it's just been disappointing to watch him.
I'm also going with the disappointing quarterback. I mean, all I heard going into the season from all the mock drafts is Keaton Slovis, big, strong, great arm, big hands, looks great in shorts. I'm not seeing it. He's not playing well. USC has a losing record, man. You have all these weapons. You have, Drake London. You have a great running game, good O-line. You're in a horrible conference. And what have you done? You folded. You have failed to show up for the last 2 seasons. You were this great prospect going into USC. Supposed to be the savior of the program. And what do we have? We have another, Matt Barkley situation. He comes back. Oh, he's going to be fantastic. USC is going to be this. USC is going to be that. And once again, they have folded.
Yeah, that's a good pick. My most disappointing player, I think we all expected this guy to be great, and he hasn't. That's Clemson quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. For the past 6 years, we've seen the Clemson Tigers as one of the 2 powerhouses of college football. Between Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, they won 2 national titles, never missed a playoff. DJ was supposed to keep that going. He was the #1 overall quarterback in the class of 2020, and everyone expected really big things out of him. But he just hasn't come close to delivering. He has the Tigers at 4-3, and none of their wins have been impressive at all. The Clemson offense has only scored more than 20 points in a game once this season, other than their 49-3 win over South Carolina State, but does that really even count? Their defense has been carrying them, but they can only do so much. DJ can't get the offense going, and Dabo Swinney even replaced them in their game versus Pitt last week with their backup quarterback, Taysom Fomachan. I personally expected this team to be right there in the playoff conversation, and they haven't come close. DJ Uiagalelei just hasn't played well for Dabo's squad this year, and he's got a couple years to turn it around, maybe get Clemson back into that playoff conversation. But this year, he's just been honestly awful.
Yeah, I think we all expected DJ to be like this Heisman candidate guy the way he played against Notre Dame a couple years ago, and he's just fell flat. I don't know what happened to him. I really don't. I wonder if he's hurt.
Well, when we return, our remote team will be telling you what to watch for, doing some call-outs, and giving you their final score predictions. You don't want to miss it.
If you store your guns properly, I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home.
I won't have to tell so many family members. I'm sorry.
I won't hear as many scary stories.
And I won't have to tell my kids. This isn't a drug.
Please.
Please, do it for us.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
We are war veterans.
And firefighters.
Mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters.
And kids that play.
Each of us has experienced unimaginable pain, had countless surgeries and skin grafts.
And emerged stronger.
We are burn survivors.
If you're one of us, please know you're not alone.
There's an army of friends waiting to help you recover, renew, and return. Please support the Phoenix Society for Burn Survivors and help someone rise again. Visit phoenix-society.org for more information.
I have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
You might look normal, but on the inside, it was just a very scary, lonely place.
Wounded Warrior Project helps improve the lives of millions of warriors and their families.
And it's like a whole network of support that I have.
My family is the most important thing in my life because of Wounded Warrior Project. We have a future.
They gave so much to me. They gave me my life back.
Even though there is so much against us, you will see me wearing a face covering.
And even with my face covered,
you will see me.
As a son.
As a friend to everyone I meet.
As a fighter for change.
As a woman who stands up for what I believe in.
So join me in wearing a face covering.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because this is one small act of kindness that has the power to bring us all together.
Good morning, my name is Jay Knowles, and taking a look at the game day forecast, you can see going into the tailgate, we'll be at 70 degrees with calm winds. By the time at 2:30 at kickoff, it'll be 68 degrees. Going into halftime, of course, your OU Sooners will be leading the game. Coach Riley's going to love that. It'll be 65 degrees with calm winds. My name is Jay Knowles, signing off and tossing back to the travel team to let you know about those Red Raiders.
From the green grass of the field to the green screen. Thanks, Weatherman Jay. We'll see if there are any touchdowns predicted for later today. But now, it's Halloween. And we're ready for some football with Red Raiders, Sooners, later today at 2:30. What can we look for against this Tech team?
I'm sorry. This is too great. We got Creed Humphrey, a ref. I was going for Lincoln Riley. I'm kind of getting the Barry Switzer vibe now. It's okay.
Little Bob Stoops, all of it in there.
Yeah, I'm going to start yelling at Kaylee just for emphasis. But for this game, I think that the biggest what to watch for is shutting down Kennedy Brooks. Now, he is a safety blanket for Caleb Williams, as he should be, and that's okay. But teams are catching on to that. I think Caleb Williams is a phenomenal quarterback. Can't say that enough. However, handing the ball off to Kennedy Brooks is getting, it's getting overused. And so I think if Tech is going to do anything, it's going to be shut down the run game. And do I think they're going to be successful? No. But I do think it's going to upset the rhythm of the offense, and that's what other teams are going to look for the remainder of the season. And we know how hard the rest of November is going to be.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the issues with this Tech team, and one of the biggest ones is they don't have strong quarterback game. The simple truth is that Henry Colombi is not a viable option to lead this Raider offense. He has his moments, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have that arm that the Raiders need to win these games. Last weekend against K-State, he completed just 10 for 17 passes for 148 yards and no touchdowns and had a pick. Colombi has tied up with touchdowns and interceptions at 4 each. Even though it was a close score, Tech also really struggled against the Wildcats. Tech only threw the ball 17 times, and along with that only produced 170 yards on the ground, and 75 of those yards were produced in the first 2 plays. Texas Tech is not going to have that good, strong game, and especially having the quarterback coach as the head coach. Like I said earlier, they're going to want to throw the ball, and with not a viable quarterback, not that great arm, they're going to struggle.
Okay. All right. Yeah. The quarterback may have some issues, but I'm still expecting a strong air raid offense from Tech. And that's playing to OU's weaknesses. The secondary has been a big issue for this team. Injuries have hampered their ability to cover the backfield. Now, yeah, Columbia may not be consistent, but he still has over 1,200 passing yards on the season. And Who's stepping in as interim head coach? The quarterback coach, Sonny Kumbi. He's going to want to use this quarterback as much as possible because, it's his guy. I'm expecting them to throw the ball so many times, get so many yards. They used to run air raid with Cliff. I can see it coming back, especially with a struggling secondary from OU. The way to get it against the Sooners is through the air. I think we're going to see a lot of passing attempts.
Yeah, I agree with that. I said he has his moments. I said he has his moments, but he has a lot of inaccuracies. Not the best arm. He's not going to be able to lead that offense like they need against OU. Hopefully, Oklahoma's defense can step it up this coming up game.
Anyone that can attack the OU secondary can shut down Oklahoma.
Exactly.
So
their run game is strong, but the Sooners' run defense is also strong. It's through the air. That's what we're going to see here. I believe I saw somebody say if I was the Tech head coach, I would throw the ball 800 times against the Sooners because that's what's going to work.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
No, but okay, let's get into our call-outs
This is a lot.
for this week.
So my call out is Alex Grinch. I think that we've been talking, or they have been talking about this Speed D, and we've been hearing of this Speed D for 3 seasons now. And where is it?
It's on shirts.
And we talked a lot about the secondary and how if anyone attacks the secondary, they're down for the count. So let's get it together, Alex Grinch, and maybe it starts with recruiting. Maybe the play calling just isn't there. But I'm calling out Alex Grinch because he can talk the talk and doesn't walk the walk. And it's as simple as that.
Okay.
Technically calling out your own staff right now.
I know. Coach calling out the coach.
I technically could be Alex Grinch right now, really.
You are all Oklahoma.
Well, too much hair.
Just an Oklahoma coach at this point.
Okay, so I'm going to have a positive call out because one player that stood out last weekend against the Jayhawks was Key Lawrence. Some might say he was the key for the Sooners.
Stop.
Okay.
He had 8 tackles and 1 forced fumble. Last weekend, he proved that he could be a playmaker for this defense. He stepped up when no one else was and really put some good defensive plays that these Sooners really needed against Kansas last weekend. So my call out is Key Lawrence. Keep it up. Keep it going because of you, the defense was a lot stronger.
Okay.
Alex Grinch can be happy with that.
Sure. All right, we got the coach calling out the coach. I'm representing the O-line, and I'm going to call out Marquise Hayes and the O-line.
Yeah, you are.
as a whole. And we've talked about the penalties earlier in the show, and that's really what I'm focusing on. Again, the quarterback protection, so much better. There's so much more time in the pocket for Caleb Williams, but you got to just tie down on these penalties. They are affecting the offense. You can't have these massive, bomb passes from Williams taken away because of some unnecessary roughness at the end of the play. It just can't happen. You can't give up these easy yards to penalties. And I'm representing Creed Humphrey. You got to take a note from Creed and that O-line. You got to just protect the quarterback, do your job, get the run game going, and that's all you need to do. So keep it up.
A lot of dumb
penalties.
A lot of dumb penalties. They got to tie down on that. But now, Sooners, Red Raiders, score prediction.
I'm going 35-21 Sooners. I do think that Texas Tech is going to rattle them a little bit in the first half. We've seen Oklahoma be a second half team over the last couple of weeks, which is a drastic change, I think, from the past, which is promising. However, I think the Sooners are going to come out on top. They're too scrambled. The Red Raiders are no head coach. You can't do that the week before Oklahoma. So I think they're definitely going to lose the game. How big of a margin? Not really sure after that Kansas game last weekend.
That's exactly what I am thinking. I'm going with 44-20, similar, a little bit more spread on that score. But Texas Tech, yes, there's a lot going on there. Doesn't have a head coach. Already struggled as a team. Spread might not be as big because I expected OU to blow Kansas out of the water, and the opposite happened. OU still held on. But again, that second half team, are we going to see that second half team again? Probably, but hopefully the Sooners can just maintain the whole time. But I think they're going to have some strong plays offensively and defensively for OU, and Tech will still have a little bit of that, not as much as OU will. They're going to throw the ball a lot. They're not going to get passes every single time, but they're going to get some. They're going to put some points on the board.
they'll put some, and I've got 42-17 OU. And you know, it's not necessarily a blowout, but a blowout needs to happen for the Sooners. They need to make a statement before going into this difficult November slate that they have. And they have the talent, they just need to utilize it properly. I'm expecting a Sooner win because they need it for the motivation. But that is all the time we have for us. For Kaylee Tinglestad and Caroline Grace, I'm Will Blessing. We're going to kick it back to the studio team for their upset picks.
He shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right, because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I'm a firefighter.
A teacher.
I'm a farmer. I'm a barber.
A waitress.
A mom.
We're all part of your community. Every day we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life. It's when you experience a moment of uncertainty, something or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right.
These are the moments to take a pause.
Because if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. It's not about paranoia
or being afraid.
It's about standing up and protecting our communities.
One detail at a time.
Because a lot of little details can become a pattern.
We trust our instincts.
Just like you should.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Oh, look, a redhead.
Staring contest!
You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to Studio A here in Gaylord College. Sometimes the unexpected can happen in college football. Miles, give me your team that's going to shock the nation today.
I got Virginia beating BYU. I understand that BYU is predicted to win this game because they're ranked. They're playing on their home field this weekend. But what else? I feel like the Cavaliers are going to come out hot. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now, and I feel like they're going to continue this streak this weekend. So I got Virginia as my upset.
I got the mighty Pretenders. Wake Forest falling to a fellow basketball school in Duke. Give me the plus 550 Blue Devils. Scared money don't make money, y'all. Yours is like -1, minus 16.5. Duke's got a top 5 run offense led by Mateo Durant, and he will take care of that stinky Swiss cheese defense that the Demon Deacons have.
Bold take.
Very bold.
I like it,
Very
though.
bold.
I like it. Upset picks. We're being bold. I'm going to go Florida State defeating Clemson. Florida State is on a 3-game win streak, and like I said earlier in the show, Clemson just hasn't been good. I expect Mike Norvell's team to go into Death Valley today, get a huge win for the Seminoles, and maybe save his job, because a couple of weeks ago I chose him that he's on the hot seat. Maybe he's starting to save his job a little bit. So Florida State over Clemson.
You know the chant? You know the chant?
Okay.
I like it.
All right, boys. In our first Pick'ems matchup, we got Dallas versus Houston. Miles, who you got? SMU or the Cougs?
I got the Cougars taking care of business at the crib. They haven't lost a game since they played Texas Tech last month. And I got faith in them that they're going to take down the Mustangs. Houston is currently 3-0 against the spread and have 7 turnovers this season. That's 3 fewer than the Mustangs have takeaways. Clayton Tune, he's the junior quarterback out of Hebron High School. He's had a solid season and is going to showcase his talents this weekend.
Not so fast. I got SMU. Sooner legends Tanner Mordecai and Grant Calcaterra are going to have a huge night at Houston. When Houston go through this week, they control their own destiny. They could make it. It's a definite possibility. I'm not saying they're going to run the table and go to the playoffs, but
Sooner legends.
Sooner legends, man. Never forget.
I thought that was reserved for Sam Bradford. But
Tanner Mordecai's a Sooner legend. Absolutely. Come on, man.
I agree, though. I'm going SMU. Tanner Mordecai, that offense is too high-powered. Houston's not going to be able to stop them. I got SMU winning this game.
Just because y'all put on the same fit, y'all ain't got to have the same picks, too, now. Come on now.
Mix it up. It's all right.
Come on.
Come on now.
I like the purple. I like it. It's cute.
Looks great.
Yeah. Auburn has been known to win some big games this year already. Do you guys think they'll do it again and upset the Rebels from Ole Miss? Miles, starting with you.
A lot of people are just assuming that Matt Corral's just going to come into Auburn Stadium and just run through the Tigers. Not so fast. They still a top 20 team, too, now. This is a team that has a solid defense, and Ole Miss is currently battling with injuries with guys like Jonathan Mingo, Braylon Sanders, Chase Rogers. They're all hurt. And even Matt Corral, who tweaked his ankle a couple weeks ago, he's still playing through this injury. So I feel like the Tigers are going to take advantage of that and take care of business at the crib. So we'll see what happens.
Don't like the pick. Like Ole Miss, Matt Golden Corral is going to live up to the name. He's going to sling it around the field. And you can't count on Bo Nix to have 2 good games in a row. There's no way. That's the most inconsistent dude in all of college football. Gotta be.
I agree. Hotty toddy, gosh almighty.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Ole Miss, Matt Corral, too good. Bo Nix. Maybe combo picks for this game, I think. Big win today. Ole Miss, they're going to keep that New Year's Six Bowl hopes alive. They're going to get a big win at Auburn today.
Well, 2 big teams need a win desperately to stay in their conference title picture. Miles, you have the Nittany Lions or the Buckeyes at home?
I got the Buckeyes. They are looking unstoppable this season. I feel like they're going to showcase why they're a top 5 team in the nation. And it's just, I feel like Penn State is just, they don't have a full team. They got guys out with injuries. And I feel like if the Buckeyes apply pressure from the jump, they're going to come out with the win, and it's definitely going to be in the bag. So we'll see.
I like how you pointed out the injuries for Penn State, but let's live a little. Come on, guys. Sean Clifford's fully healthy. Penn State has the 6th-ranked S&P Plus defense. First game that Sean Clifford's been healthy since the start of the Iowa game. Let's live a little. Let's have a little fun pick. Give me Penn State.
You call me drunk? You call me drunk, bro?
Okay.
Look at that. Come on, bro.
They were undefeated.
Ohio State
before he gets hurt. All I'm saying.
Ohio State's going to kill him. Kill him. At home, Penn State just lost to a 2-win Illinois team.
Illinois is tough. They fight.
9 overtime.
Fighting Illini.
Come on. Ohio State.
What? Come on.
Well, running back Kenneth Walker has had a Heisman hopeful season for the Michigan State Spartans. Miles, do you think his performance will be enough to give them the dub against the in-state rival, Michigan?
I got Michigan to win it. This is going to be an exciting matchup between these 2 teams. This is the first time since 1964 that these 2 teams face each other and they are both ranked in the top 10. So it's just going to be exciting to see how these two teams go at it. But I got the Wolverines taking care of business.
I got the Wolverines too, and I think honestly this has a chance to be the game of the year. If you love teams who run the ball, these are 2 of the best to do it. Give me Michigan. Michigan has the number 2 defense, the scoring defense, in all of college football, paired with one of the 2 best running backs in Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins. Give me the Wolverines taking home the Paul Bunyan Trophy.
For once, we all agree on something.
That's crazy. It took a whole show for this to happen.
Crazy. I'm going Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's finally going to learn how to beat a rival. And Kenneth Walker, great running back for Michigan State. Not enough. Michigan, this might be the year for him. Ohio State, Michigan, it's going to be a tough game. But this could be Michigan's year to actually get that Big Ten championship, maybe in that playoff conversation. I'm going Michigan.
I'm so glad you came around to Michigan right before the show. I love that pick. I think Jim Harbaugh's, this is the year, guys. He's finally going to do it.
Most definitely.
He's going to take over. They're going to beat Ohio State. Anyway, you know my point. Well, maybe slow down the Ohio State point.
Finally in agreement with each other. Good job, boys. Well, last but certainly not least, there's a new sheriff in town for the Red Raiders. Miles, is the head coaching change for Texas Tech going to help them pull off the upset?
Bing bong!
The Sooners are here!
Yes, sir! You feel me? I got the Sooners taking home the dub. Obviously, hopefully that we don't see a repeat of what happened in Lawrence. Both the offense and defense need to set the tone early if they want a dub against the Red Raiders. But it's going to be up at the Palace on the Prairie this weekend.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big test for OU's run game. Texas Tech has held 5 out of the 8 teams they've played to under 100 rushing yards. But on that same token, TCU almost ran for 400 yards against them. There are holes in this Texas Tech defense. New coach Sean Cumby has less than a week to prepare against the biggest team he'll play all year. I don't know if he can get this locker room ready to go in time, but hopefully if he gets his locker room attention, they won't get blown up by 40. I think they'll get blown up by 30, but it'll be all right.
Hey, we did it again. We agreed.
OU's
going to win.
Look at us.
Tech, I mean, they're basically coachless. Lincoln Riley is going to have their number. And like you said, their defense, they have holes. Texas put up 70 on this Texas Tech defense, and now they're without a head coach. I don't see any way that Tech is just going to be able to go on the road to Norman and get a win. I mean, how do you expect a team without coach? I personally think that they should have just kept him for the rest of the year. I mean, what's it going to hurt? But, they fired him midway through the season, and now they're coachless and facing one of the best teams in the country.
I'm going to just play the devil's advocate here right second. You saw last week when they faced Kansas. This team has been slow and just had a slow start from the jump, and I just feel like, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, they're going to take advantage of that if the Sooners don't get their act together.
Right. Well, what if, now hear me out, this coach has like 4 days to prepare, given travel and everything. What if that's the spark they need? What if that's the jolt that helps this Texas Tech team compete, put on a show? What if that happens? Like, what if? This is a lot of what ifs.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Right, but what if they're like, we love this new coach. We're going to go out and fire and play for him. Screw the old guy. We don't like him, whatever type of thing.
I mean, yeah, it's possible.
It's
possible.
It could happen. It's possible, but it's not impossible.
Oklahoma can lose games. They always lose to a team you're not supposed to.
Right.
But, I mean, they always seem like they can handle Tech. Last year, they killed them on the road. Tech is just a team that OU has their number. And Lincoln Riley I don't think Lincoln Riley has lost to Texas Tech since he's been here.
How much stock do y'all put into the Kansas game, honestly? A lot?
Yeah,
really? So you guys are fairly concerned about OU, okay.
I think OU's under a lot of pressure, honestly. I mean, just being undefeated, it's a lot of pressure. So it could go either way, but we'll see.
We will see.
Absolutely.
Well, that is all the time we have for this morning for Game Day U. For Miles Hartman, Parker Abels, and Jimmy Wicks, I'm Addison Arthur. Be sure to follow Game Day U on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and tune in next time for some more college football action. Have a great day and enjoy the games.
Oh, Vanessa. You gonna text her back?
Nope. I'm high.
I'm gonna hit the treadmill.
You're already making good decisions when you're high.
We need to go meet the guys. I'm lit. Can you drive?
Nope, I'm high. How about they come over?
Where?
Don't make an exception when it comes to driving. If you feel different, you drive different.